I'm Elise Morgan, 32 years old, a financial manager for an investment firm in Boise, Idaho. I live alone in a small apartment near Julia Davis Park. Its tiny corners a reflection of my personality, meticulous, straightforward, and always responsible, especially when it comes to family. The park's lush greenery and the soft hum of the Boise River offer a quiet escape from the weight I carry, a weight that's grown heavier with each passing year. Since graduating college, I'd pretty much carried the weight for my parents. They live in a 2-story house in Pocatello, where I grew up, its sagging porch and chipped paint a constant reminder of my efforts to keep it standing. Even though their jobs never brought in much money, I never let them go without, my bank account a silent testament to my duty. When my mom needed knee surgery, I covered the entire medical bill, the hospital's sterile halls echoing with my worry. When the house started falling apart because of rotten pipes, I hired workers and paid over $10,000 0 cents myself, the claiming of tools a soundtrack to my sacrifice. Every month, I consistently sent $1,500 0 cents to help cover their mortgage and living expenses, each transfer a quiet vow to keep them afloat. At first, I thought it was just the right thing to do, kids helping their parents when needed, a role I embraced without question. But over time, I started noticing something I had tried to ignore, a truth that crept into my thoughts like a persistent shadow. My younger brother Caleb is 4 years younger than me. No degree, no stable job, never financially independent. While I was working 10-hour days, my desk piled with spreadsheets and stress, Caleb stayed home watching TV, scrolling his phone, then driving out with friends in the evening, his laughter a stark contrast to my exhaustion. Some months, Mom would call, her voice heavy with manufactured worry. "Caleb's wallet got stolen. Can you send extra money?" I never questioned it. Just sent more like a robot. The transfer's automatic, my heart numb. But funny thing, his wallet seemed to get stolen at least once every year, a pattern so predictable it became a bitter joke. By the 4th time, I found it more laughable than pitiful, though the humor stung. I never once saw Caleb seriously hold a job. When he was 25, he opened a vinyl record shop, his eyes bright with fleeting ambition. I invested the initial $12,000, 0, since even helped him draft the business plan, staying up late to refine his pitch, hoping it would be his turning point. A year later, the shop shut down, and all he said was, "Guess I'm not cut out to be a business owner." His shrug, a dismissal of my faith in him. After that, he moved back in with our parents, living rent-free like it was the most natural thing in the world, his presence a constant drain. Still, I never heard a single complaint from Mom and Dad, their silence a tacit endorsement of his inertia. Every time I called, Mom would speak softly, her voice a gentle shield. "He's trying, Elise. He just needs more time." More time? He was 28. I had spent my entire youth working, saving, providing for the family, my dreams deferred to keep them afloat. Meanwhile, Caleb just needed more time, his failures cushioned by their indulgence. I started feeling worn out, the exhaustion seeping into my bones like a slow poison. After long, stressful days, I would sit alone in my apartment at 512 Grove Street, the soft glow of my laptop illuminating the automatic transfer reminders on my phone, each one a heavy weight on my heart. It wasn't the money I regretted. It was the effort, the invisible labor that went unnoticed. The weekends I skipped out on fun with friends just to fix their roof, the hammer's thud echoing my sacrifice, while Caleb stayed in his room playing video games, his laughter a taunt through the walls. The birthdays where it was just me, a cake I bought myself from the corner bakery, and a lonely candle flickering in the dark, while Caleb got backyard barbecue parties, even though he did nothing all year, the smoke and music a celebration of his existence. I kept telling myself they don't mean it, but deep down, I knew they favored him. Caleb was the baby boy, the one Mom always spoke to with the softest voice, her eyes warm with indulgence, while I was just his sister, the responsible one, expected to carry the load without complaint. Whenever I got tired and blurted out, my voice trembling with rare vulnerability, "Mom, I need some care too," she would reply, her tone gentle but dismissive. "You're strong, Elise. You don't need anyone to worry about you." Yes, I didn't need anyone to worry about me. But that didn't mean I deserved to be overlooked, my efforts reduced to an expectation. The more I thought about it, the more I felt like a shadow standing behind the family, only existing when they needed money, repairs, or someone to clean up the mess. My presence a convenience rather than a treasure. As for care, gratitude, or even just a hug, I wasn't sure when those disappeared, their absence a quiet wound that grew with each passing year. And I kept sending money, kept getting half-hearted thank you texts, kept staying silent when I saw Caleb flaunting a new pair of designer shoes on Instagram with the caption, "Gifted by someone special," the post a slap in the face. Someone special? Was that someone me? The sister who'd bankrolled his life while he offered nothing in return? I thought I had gotten used to it, but really, I was just bottling it up, the pressure building like a storm waiting to break. And then, one day, a random, seemingly harmless moment shattered it all. A truth I never saw coming, hidden behind sweet words and fake responsibilities, forced me to stand up and finally ask, what am I to this family? I didn't know if the pain or the anger would hit me harder, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to stay silent anymore. My voice a spark ready to ignite. It happened on a gray, damp Saturday afternoon, April 20, 2024, as if the weather itself was warning me, the clouds heavy with unspoken truths. I drove from Boise back to Pocatello, the 2-hour journey a familiar pilgrimage, to help my parents with some bank paperwork at their house on 315 Oakwood Drive. They said they needed me to review some mortgage loan documents, a task I'd handled so often it felt like second nature. Mom greeted me at the door with a glass of lemonade, her smile light but strained, the lines on her face deeper than I remembered, pointing to a stack of papers on the living room table, its worn surface cluttered with memories of my childhood. "Can you look at these for me, honey? I can't make sense of them," she said, her voice soft but tinged with a nervousness I couldn't place, like always, trusting and oblivious. I sat down on the faded couch, the scent of old wood and lemon cleaner filling the air, pulled out my laptop, and opened the thick folder neatly clipped together, its weight a metaphor for the burdens I carried. Most of it was bank forms, utility bills, old tax documents, routine chaos I'd untangled countless times. But then there was another, thinner stack marked with a blue sticker, typed neatly on the cover. Last Will and Testament. Richard and Evelyn Morgan. The words stark against the white paper. I froze, my breath catching, the room suddenly too small. A will. Curiosity, or maybe survival instinct, a primal need to know my place, made me open it, my fingers trembling as I turned the page. I didn't know what I was hoping for, maybe a line acknowledging all my quiet sacrifices, a nod to the years I'd given, maybe some tiny promise of fairness. But what I saw was brutally cold. The ink a dagger to my heart. We leave all assets, including the house in Pocatello, savings accounts, life insurance, and land rights to our son, Caleb Morgan. I read the line over and over, each word a fresh wound, hoping my eyes were wrong, the text blurring as my vision swam. But no, my name wasn't mentioned once, not even a small share, not even a note of acknowledgement, except one lonely line at the end, a hollow platitude. We love both our children equally, but believe this is necessary for family stability. Love equally? The words mocked me, a cruel lie against the backdrop of my sacrifices. They showed their love by letting me pay their bills while Caleb got everything, his future secured by my labor. I felt a chill down my spine, colder than the damp air outside. The room tilting as if the ground had shifted beneath me. All those years of working myself into exhaustion, sleepless nights worrying about Mom's health, cutting back on my own needs to send money home, all erased with one line saying, necessary, as if I were a footnote in their story. They didn't see me, only a daughter who could carry burdens, so they piled everything onto me, their expectations a yoke I'd worn too long. I sat there for a long time, frozen, the papers trembling in my hands, until Mom's voice called out from the kitchen, sharp with impatience. "Elise, did you find the bank document?" I stood up, grabbed the will, its edges crumpling under my grip, and walked straight into the kitchen, the linoleum floor cold beneath my feet. She was rinsing vegetables, hands trembling slightly from the cold water, her back to me, as if she could avoid the storm brewing. I held up the papers at her eye level, my voice low but shaking with barely contained fury. "When did you write this, Mom?" She glanced over, and I caught the flicker of panic in her eyes, a deer caught in headlights. But she quickly masked it, her voice too calm, too rehearsed. "Oh, that? It's been a while. Your father and I just wanted to have everything settled. I thought you already knew." I didn't answer, my silence a challenge she couldn't ignore. She put down the vegetables, wiped her hands on a faded dish towel, and spoke softer, her tone a practiced plea. "Elise, you have a stable career, your own home, a good job. Caleb, he's still struggling. We just want to help him get on his feet." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because the absurdity cut too deep to stay silent, the sound raw and bitter. "His feet? He doesn't even need to stand up, Mom. You're handing him the whole house to lie on, while I've been breaking my back for years." Her eyes widened, but I pressed on, my voice rising, each word a release of pent-up pain. "Do you even know how many nights I stayed up balancing your bills? How many dreams I shelved to keep you afloat?" She opened her mouth to say something, but I held up my hand, cutting her off, my resolve a steel wall. "Don't. I get it, perfectly clear now." I walked out of the kitchen toward the front door, the will clutched in my hand like evidence of a crime. Dad was outside changing a porch light, the bulb's flicker mirroring my frayed nerves, looking up with a smile that faltered when he saw my face. "Leaving already?" "Stay for dinner," he said, his voice casual, oblivious to the storm I carried. I stared at him for a long moment, then held up the papers, my voice steady but laced with betrayal. "Did you sign it?" He followed my hand, his face freezing, guilt flashing in his eyes before he masked it with a shrug. Yeah, I did, but—" "No need to explain," I cut him off, my tone sharp, the words a blade hunned by years of silence. "I read it. It's crystal clear." I stepped down the porch, my voice low, each syllable a quiet rebellion. "I came to help you with paperwork. Now I see where I stand. Elise!" he called after me, his voice tinged with panic. "Don't misunderstand." I turned around and looked my father straight in the eye, my gaze unyielding, the truth a fire in my chest. "I'm not misunderstanding anything. I understand it perfectly," I said, my words a final verdict. Then I got into my car and shut the door, the slam echoing like a gavel. The engine started, but inside I felt frozen, the weight of their betrayal a cold stone in my heart. Turns out, sometimes you don't become an outsider because you're pushed away. You become an outsider the moment you stay silent for too long. And I was done being silent. I got back to Boise around 8:00 p.m. on April 20, 2024, just as the rain began to fall, each drop a cold echo of my isolation. The city's lights blurred through my windshield. Everything inside me felt numb. No raindrop could match the coldness of feeling cast out of your own family. The betrayal, a wound that pulsed with every heartbeat. I sat in the car for a long while, gripping the steering wheel at my apartment parking lot at 512 Grove Street. The engine's hum a faint comfort against the void within. I should have been angry. Should have cried, should have screamed. But all I felt was emptiness, a hollow space where love should have been, carved out by their indifference. The next morning, April 21, 2024, I couldn't focus on anything. The image of the will's stark ink, the phrase "believe this is necessary," and my mother's guilty smile kept replaying in my head, a relentless loop of betrayal. By midday, I decided to call my mother, my hands trembling as I dialed, unable to let it pass like I was some forgotten guest in their family. The phone rang 3 times before she picked up, her voice tentative as if she sensed the storm coming. "Elise, I was just about to call you," she said, her tone too bright, too forced. "Mom, I need to talk." "Seriously, no sugarcoating," I said, forcing my voice to stay calm, though my heart pounded with the weight of a decade's unspoken pain. There was a pause, then a heavy sigh, her voice dropping to a cautious whisper. "All right, go ahead." "Why?" I asked, my voice steady but sharp, each word a shard of glass. "Why leave everything to Caleb? Were you planning to wait until I was completely drained before telling me the truth?" Mom answered, slowly, her words measured as if navigating a minefield. "It's not what you think, Elise. Your father and I thought about it for a long time. You're stable, strong, independent. Caleb, he needs help. He's not like you. I let out a bitter laugh, the sound raw, cutting through the phone's static. Help? He made us teammate. He needs a wake-up call. He lives like the world owes him everything, and you let— My voice rose, the dam of silence breaking, years of resentment spilling out. Do you know how many times I skipped meals to send you money? How many nights I lay awake worrying about your bills? Mom's voice grew sharper, defensive, a familiar tactic. He's your brother, Elise. Don't talk about him that way. He's trying, and you've always been the strong one. I cut her off, my voice trembling with fury, each word a strike against her excuses. No. He's the one who hasn't earned a dime in 10 years but still gets called the poor thing. And me? Every time I sent money, all I got was, "Thank you, I'll pay you back soon." But you know what? Not once did you ever pay me back because you knew I wouldn't ask. You counted on it. I heard her breathing heavily on the other end, her voice cracking with a mix of guilt and defiance. I'm sorry, Elise. I didn't realize it hurt you this much. I thought you were okay with it. You didn't think, I said, my voice low, the truth a blade I'd honed for years. It's the problem, Mom. No one in this family ever thought about me. I was the convenient one. When the roof leaked, call Elise. When the electric bill was overdue, call Elise. When Caleb's store failed, who covered it? Elise. But when it came time to share assets, oh right, she's stable enough. Her voice trembled, a desperate plea breaking through. Do you know why we did it that way? I stayed silent, letting her words hang, a challenge she couldn't escape. Because I was afraid you'd leave us, she said, her voice breaking. I was afraid if we gave you part of it, Caleb would resent us and you'd never come back. You were already living far away, so I chose to keep Caleb close, even knowing it wasn't fair. I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles white, my voice steady but laced with pain. You didn't lose me because I moved away. You lost me because you never really held on to me, I said, the words a quiet verdict, each one a release of the chains I'd worn. You chose Caleb's comfort over my existence, and I'm done pretending that's love, she sobbed, her voice muffled, as if the truth had finally pierced her facade. I'm sorry, Elise. I just wanted to keep the peace. By erasing me from the family, by turning me into a walking wallet, I interrupted, my voice rising, the hurt raw and unfiltered. Do you know I stayed up at night worrying you wouldn't have enough for retirement? I even looked into buying extra insurance for both of you. But now I think Caleb will take care of that, since the house and the future belong to him. I hung up, my heart pounding, my hands ice cold, the phone slipping from my fingers onto the table. I thought I would feel relief, but instead I felt sadness so deep it made it hard to breathe. Sadness that, even as an adult, I still clung to the hope that my parents would treat me fairly. Sadness that the one they always coddled had never once stood up for anyone but himself, his silence a betrayal as deep as their word. I opened my laptop, the screen's glow a harsh contrast to the dimness of my apartment, logged into my bank account at 512 Grove Street, and canceled the automatic transfers to my parents, each click a severance of the chains I'd worn too long, the confirmation a quiet rebellion against their expectations. I sat there, staring at the screen for a while, the silence of the room a stark contrast to the storm within. Then opened a new Excel sheet. I started listing every amount I had sent them over the past 7 years. $10,000, 0 cents for pipes, $12,000, 0 cents for Caleb's shop, $1,500, 0 cents monthly for years, not to demand it back, but to remind myself I had done enough, more than enough, the ledger of my unseen labor. I'm not heartless, but I refuse to keep being the only one who cares in a one-sided relationship. And if they believe Caleb deserves everything, then now they'll live with that choice without me around to clean up the mess, a decision that felt like reclaiming my soul. A week after that final call with Mom, I still hadn't heard a word from them, the silence a fragile reprieve I clung to. Good. I needed space to breathe, to get used to the feeling of no longer being tied down by invisible expectations and unwanted obligations, each day a step toward freedom. But that silence didn't last long, its fragility shattered by their persistence. On Monday morning, April 29, 2024, as I was getting ready for a regional director meeting, my phone buzzed. The notification of a jarring intrusion. A text from Dad. Elise, the property tax is coming due. Can you front it like always? No hello, no how are you, just another cold, familiar request, as if the will's betrayal had never happened, as if I were still their ATM. I stared at the screen, feeling a bitter mix of sadness and amusement. They really thought I was still the same old Elise, the one who would open her wallet no matter how hurt she was. I typed back without hesitation, my fingers steady, my resolve unyielding. I think Caleb can handle it. The house belongs to him now. Less than 5 minutes later, Mom called, her name flashing like a warning on my screen. I let it ring, the sound a reminder of her complicity. She called again, then sent a text, her words dripping with manipulation. Elise, don't do this. You know we don't have enough. Caleb's still looking for a job. Don't let a small misunderstanding tear the family apart. Small misunderstanding? The phrase was a slap, minimizing a decade of my sacrifices. I bit my lip, steadying myself, then replied, my voice in text as firm as steel. Mom, this isn't a misunderstanding. You and Dad made a clear decision. I'm just respecting it. If Caleb deserves everything, then he can start taking responsibility too. This time, it wasn't until evening that I got a response from Caleb. His text a flare of indignation. Are you really going to abandon them over a piece of paper? I almost laughed. A piece of paper? That was the cold verdict they handed me after years of sacrifice, a document that erased me from their legacy. I didn't reply immediately, letting the anger simmer, then wrote, my words deliberate, each one a stake in the ground. It's not about the paper, Caleb. It's about never truly being part of the family. Now, at least I'm free. Play him so fast, it was obvious he'd been waiting, his tone a mix of mockery and entitlement. You're so selfish, Elise. Family is about getting through hard times together, not cutting and running when it suits you. I typed each word like carving it in stone, my resolve a quiet fire. Family is about sharing, not exploiting. I've carried everything alone for too long, now it's your turn to find out what hard times really mean. I didn't get another text from Caleb that night, but I knew it wasn't over, the air thick with the promise of their retaliation. 3 days later, on May 2, 2024, I received an email from the bank, a stark notification that pierced my morning calm. My secondary account in Pocatello, the one my parents had access to, had an attempted withdrawal that exceeded the limit, a desperate grasp at my resources. I immediately called the bank to close the account and revoked all access, my voice steady as I severed their last tie to my finances. I had originally created that account to make it easier to support them every month. Now, there was no reason for it to exist, its closure a final act of defiance. Right after I finished, Dad's number popped up on my phone. The call, a predictable escalation of... The text came next, his words sharp with accusation. You really want us to lose the house? You won't be able to live with yourself. I stared at the screen for a long moment, the guilt he tried to wield no longer finding purchase, then typed back slowly, my voice in text a quiet vow. No one's losing anything, Dad. Now you'll just have to take care of it yourselves. I'm not a bank, and I'm no longer the daughter forced to choose between love and distorted gratitude. The final text of the day came from Mom, a short, heavy message that cut like a knife. We're disappointed in you. I took a deep breath and unlocked my phone, the weight of their words no longer heavy, my resolve a shield forged in truth. For the first time in years, I chose to stand by myself, not out of duty, not out of guilt, not for anyone else. I used to think cutting ties would leave me feeling empty, but I didn't. I felt free, the chains of their expectations falling away like leaves in the wind. It's not that I stopped loving them. It's that I finally loved myself enough not to let anyone treat me like I didn't matter. 3 days after cutting all contact and closing the secondary bank account, on May 5, 2024, my apartment doorbell rang on a Saturday morning, its chime a jarring intrusion into my newfound peace. Before I could even check the peephole, the knocking started loud, urgent, like a debt collector, not a family visit, the sound echoing through my small apartment. I looked through the lens, my heart pounding as I saw them. Mom standing next to Dad, and no surprise, Caleb too, hands stuffed in his pockets, face twisted like he was the one betrayed. I stood still, the sight of them a shock I hadn't braced for. They had come all the way here, no call, no warning, their audacity a final assault. They showed up like I owed them something, their presence a demand I was done meeting. I didn't open the door, my resolve a steel wall, but when Mom started speaking through the gap, her voice dripping with her usual dramatics, I knew they wouldn't leave quietly. Elise, I know you're in there. I don't want to make a scene, but you're pushing this family to the edge, she said, her tone a mix of accusation and performance, loud enough for neighbors to hear. Mom, this isn't the time or the place. I don't want to talk right now, please leave. Dad spoke up, his voice heavy, like he'd climbed a mountain, his words laced with guilt-tripping weight. Are you really going to ignore your parents after everything we've done for you, Elise? We raised you better than this. I swallowed my anger, keeping my tone even, each word a defiance of his manipulation. You chose Caleb, and now I'm choosing myself. Mom pounded harder on the door, her voice rising, dropping any pretense of calm. Don't be so selfish, Elise. Family is about carrying the load together. Weren't you always the thoughtful one? Or was that all an act? I opened the door, not to argue. I was just too tired of hiding, the weight of their accusations too heavy to bear in silence. They stood there, the three of them, lined up neatly at my doorstep at 512 Grove Street, a tribunal of judgment. Mom crossing her arms with a disappointed glare, her eyes narrowed like a judge, Dad lowering his head, feigning shame while plotting his next move, and Caleb smirking like he was watching a cheap drama, his arrogance a spark to my fury. I folded my arms and blocked the entrance, my stance a quiet fortress. All right, since you went through all the trouble, listen carefully. Mom jumped in before I could finish, her voice sharp, her dramatics in full force. Oh, you listen, Elise. Your father's blood pressure is bad, the house needs plumbing repairs, Caleb's applying for jobs everywhere, and you just need to help for a few more months. Don't turn your back on us now. A few months? I nodded slowly, my voice low but cutting, each word a deliberate strike. Just like the few months last year? Or the year before? Or when you said Caleb would be independent by 25? He's 28 now, Mom. Still freeloading, still the one who needs help while I've been bleeding dry for your family's stability, Caleb snapped, his smirk faltering, his voice dripping with entitlement. I never asked you to do anything, Elise. Mom and Dad made those decisions. It wasn't me. Stop acting like I owe you. I stared him down, my gaze unyielding, the truth afire in my chest. No, you didn't have to ask, because you knew someone else would carry the burden for you. You've been coasting on my sacrifices for years, and you don't even have the decency to acknowledge. Dad stepped forward, his voice a mix of anger and desperation. Elise, you're acting like a stranger. When families have problems, they sit down and work it out. You can't throw it all away over a will. It's just... I took a deep breath, my voice steady, each word a quiet verdict. I'm not throwing anything away. The will ended it already. You ended it when you erased me from your future. I'm just refusing to keep being the only one pouring money and energy into a so-called family that only sees me when they need saving. Mom grabbed my sleeve, her eyes brimming with crocodile tears, her voice trembling with practiced emotion. You're my daughter, Elise. I don't want to lose you over money. Please, don't do this to us. I gently but firmly pulled away, my resolve unshaken, my voice low but fierce. You didn't lose me over money, Mom. You lost me when you chose Caleb, the one who never took responsibility, to entrust the whole future to, while I, the one who carried the weight for 10 years, was erased from the picture. I looked each of them in the eye, my eyes a quiet roar. I was just a walking wallet. Caleb's face flushed as he turned away, his bravado crumbling under the weight of truth. Mom stood frozen, her tears no longer convincing, her silence a confession. Dad clenched his jaw like he was swallowing glass, his eyes darting away, unable to meet mine. I stepped back into my apartment, holding the door open, my silent a final boundary. If any of you still think I'm going to change my mind, you can ream now. I'm no longer your silent shadow. I closed the door gently this time. No slamming, no goodbye. the soft click, a perfect ending to a chapter I'd outgrown. I leaned against the door, my hands shaking slightly. Not from fear, but from the exhilarating release of cutting loose something that had bound me my entire life. A guilt masquerading as family love. A chain I'd finally broken. I'd thought the confrontation at my doorstep would be the end. That they would back off. Lick their wounds in pride, maybe even reflect a little on the pain they'd caused. But I had given them too much credit, underestimating their need to control the narrative. Early one morning, May 10, 2024, as I was sipping coffee, the rich aroma a small comfort in my quiet apartment, a text from Harper, my college best friend now working as a lawyer in Spokane, popped up, her urgency piercing my calm. "Are you okay, Elise? I just saw something your mom posted on Facebook. It's bad." I frowned, the warmth of the coffee fading, opened my phone and logged into my old account that I kept just to stay in touch with a few friends, my heart sinking as I navigated to my mother's page. Her post had been shared over 40 times, a digital dagger aimed at my heart. It's heartbreaking as parents to see your child turn their back on you over money. We sacrificed our whole lives for her, and now, when we need her most, she coldly cuts us off. Our home is at risk of foreclosure, but she's too busy living her fancy life to care. I read it over and over, each word heavier than the last. A public execution of my character. The comments were worse. A chorus of strangers piling on. Kids these days have no gratitude. If my child did that, it would break my heart. How could someone be so ungrateful with parents like that? Caleb had shared it too, adding his own sanctimonious comment. His hypocrisy a fresh wound. Family is about love, not calculations. I'm not perfect, but I never turned my back when they needed me. And then Dad posted a short, passive-aggressive status, tagging me directly, his words a calculated jab. Some people think success means forgetting where they came from. It's only when we grow old and weak that we realize not every child we raised is truly ours. I put my phone down on the table, the screen's glow a harsh contrast to the morning light, and after a long moment I let out a dry laugh, the sound raw but resolute. They had made me the villain. The ungrateful daughter who threw her parents onto the street, a caricature of their own making. None of the dozens of commenters knew I had kept that house standing for the last decade with my own sacrifices, my labor invisible to their judgmental eyes. I opened my laptop, logged into Facebook, hands trembling slightly with a mix of anger and determination, but my eyes clear, my resolve a quiet fire. If they had chosen to tell only half the story, then I would tell the part they left out. The part I had been silent about all my youth, a truth too long buried. I started typing, my fingers steady, each word a deliberate act of liberation. I never thought I'd post something like this. But it seems my family has chosen to tell only half the story, and cast me as the villain. I'm the eldest daughter of Richard and Evelyn Morgan. I've been financially supporting my parents since I was 23, right after getting my first paycheck. I covered mortgage debts, hospital bills, utilities, and home repairs. $10,000, 0 cents for pipes. $12,000, 0 cents for my brother's failed business. $1,500, 0 cents monthly for years. I never asked for praise. I did it because I believed that's what children should do. Meanwhile, my brother Caleb never held a steady job. While I worked overtime to send money home, he lived comfortably without responsibility or contribution, his days filled with video games and nights out. My parents knew, but they never corrected it. They told me, "You're more capable, Elise. Help him out." They did for years in silence, until I found out they left all assets, the house, the savings, the insurance. I wasn't even mentioned except for one line saying they loved both children equally. A hollow line for someone who carried the weight without complaint. I don't resent them for choosing to leave everything to Caleb. I simply refuse to continue playing the role of the invisible supporter. I didn't abandon my family. I just refused to keep being used. If anyone reading this still thinks I'm ungrateful, imagine being in my shoes. You can give, you can sacrifice, but would you accept being treated like nothing more than a walking wallet forever? I hit post, the action a quiet roar, then closed my laptop, poured myself a glass of water and sat quietly, the silence of my apartment a stark contrast to the storm I'd unleashed. Messages from friends and distant relatives started pouring in, their words a tide of support that washed away the isolation. An aunt wrote, her message trembling with emotion, "Your post made me cry, Elise. I saw it all but never dared say anything. I'm so sorry." A high school friend messaged, her voice a beacon of solidarity. Finally, someone said what so many of us have lived through. "You're not alone." I didn't need their defense. I just felt the power of my own voice, not to fight, but to end the silence that made others believe my sacrifice was automatic, a truth that set me free. My post spread faster than I expected, a digital wildfire that burned through their lies. People I hadn't heard from in years were the first to reach out, their messages a chorus of validation. A former coworker wrote, her words a mirror to my pain. I was also the dependable child. Thank you for saying what so many have been too afraid to admit. A distant cousin sent a long message, her honesty a quiet gift. I saw the favoritism in your family for years, Elise, but stayed silent out of fear of being labeled nosy. I'm proud of you for speaking up. Several old friends from high school also reached out with words of encouragement, saying they were proud of me for breaking the silence. Their support a new kind of family. On the other hand, my parents continued posting cryptic messages, their defiance a desperate grasp at control. My father wrote, his words dripping with martyrdom. "We lost the daughter who was once our pride, all because she got too busy with her success to remember where she came from." My mother posted an old photo of the three of us, her caption a calculated jab. "Some things only live on in memories. We forgive, but we don't forget." Durbanus sent me a look, his sanctimonious tone a fresh wound. Family is a place for forgiveness, not keeping score. It's sad when some people only see numbers instead of love. I didn't respond, didn't feel the need to anymore, not because I was bitter, but because I no longer craved their acknowledgement, their approval a currency I no longer valued. The truth was out. Whoever wanted to understand would understand, and whoever chose to believe their version could keep believing it, their lies no longer my burden. I didn't post anything else, no rebuttals, just silence, but not the old kind of silence, not the resigned, hurt silence that had defined my youth. This was a peaceful, grounded quiet, the kind that comes when you finally untie yourself from a role you never chose, a quiet that felt like home. A month later, in June 2024, I moved into a new apartment, smaller, near the Boise River at 718 Front Street, its modest walls a canvas for my new life. It wasn't fancy, but the east-facing windows caught the morning sun, painting the room with golden light, and the soft sound of water helped me sleep peacefully every night, a lullaby of freedom. I also started writing again, something I hadn't done in nearly 10 years, buried under spreadsheets, bank accounts, and other people's bills, the words a reclamation of my voice. On evenings without emergency calls or desperate money requests, I sat at my desk, the river's murmur a gentle companion, and wrote about silence, about awkwardness, about letting go, each sentence a step toward healing. I learned to say no to things that drained me, from unnecessary social obligations to relationships that only showed up when they needed something from me. My boundaries a shield I'd never dared wield. I no longer feared the word selfish. I had lived too long under a distorted version of generosity, my sacrifices mistaken for obligation. And now I chose to love myself, a radical act that felt like breathing for the first time. I kept a few old friendships, the ones who had stood by me when all I had was responsibility, their laughter a balm to my scars. We met up on weekends, strolled through Julia Davis Park, the grass soft beneath our feet, and talked about little things. New books, local coffee shops, the way the river sparkled at dusk, things that had nothing to do with debts or family duties. And strangely, I felt lighter, the weight of their expectations replaced by the joy of simple moments. One evening in late summer, August 15, 2024, while walking along the river, the sunset painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, my phone buzzed. An unknown number, its chime a quiet intrusion. I hesitated, my heart a cautious drumbeat, then answered, "Elise." I recognized the voice immediately. It was my mother, her tone soft, almost fragile, a stark contrast to her doorstep dramatics. She paused for a few seconds, then said, I'm not calling to ask for anything, Elise. I just, honest know, are you doing okay? I said nothing at first, a part of me softening at the sound of her voice, but I knew forgiveness takes time. Trust a bridge not rebuilt with a single call. I answered quietly, my voice steady but guarded. I'm living well, Mom, but I need to live my own life, not as a burden bearer, not as a backup plan for Caleb or anyone else. No arguments, no blame, just a soft, almost broken, I understand, her voice trembling with a sincerity I wasn't sure I could trust. I didn't say, I forgive you, but I also didn't hang up. The act of listening, a small step toward healing, and sometimes that's enough to know you're no longer as hurt as you once were. The scars still there, but no longer bleeding. After the call ended, I looked out at the river, the lights reflecting off the water like a chain of memories being set free, their shimmer a quiet promise of renewal. I knew I still had healing to do, with myself, with the past, but at least now, I would no longer walk forward on trembling legs, weighed down by guilt. I would move forward with the steady steps of someone who knows they deserve love, real love, the kind that doesn't demand sacrifice as its price. My story isn't just about favoritism or a will, it's about reclaiming self-worth after years of being trapped in the role of the responsible child, a journey from shadow to light. I realized that true filial love doesn't mean unconditional sacrifice, and real family doesn't demand the loss of your personal freedom, a truth that reshaped my world. By letting go of the role I was forced into, I found peace and learned to love myself, keeping only relationships built on genuine respect, not exhausting obligation, my life a tapestry woven with my own choices. What do you think about Elise's choice? Or was it necessary to truly find herself? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to follow the channel for more real, heartfelt stories about family and life. Stories that remind us of the courage it takes to choose ourselves. Elise's journey from silent sacrifice to empowered independence unveils the pain of being unseen by those she loved, a wound shared by many, yet it radiates the courage to reclaim her worth, a beacon for anyone trapped in obligation's shadow. Her fight wasn't just about bills or a house. It was about refusing to let control masquerade as love, sparked by a wheel's cold betrayal and fueled by years of unacknowledged devotion, a fire that forged her freedom from the ashes of expectation. Many know the ache of giving everything to those who give nothing back, the exhaustion of being the strong one, yet rise to build a life of their own, their scars a testament to their strength. If you fought to be seen or chosen yourself over toxic ties, your story matters, a vital thread in the tapestry of resilience. Share it below, or with a trusted friend. Your voice can inspire others, building a community where courage heals and truth prevails, where silence is broken and freedom is won. What's your journey? Speak it. We're listening.